Hello, everyone. Jak Syn here on behalf of Fiend.com and Future Daze, and today it's another exciting episode of Artist Interviews. Today, I am sitting with Dark Rob and Power Rob of Megatronics. How are you two doing today?
Not doing too bad. Doing pretty good. How you doing, Dark Rob?
Feeling pretty metal, pretty good. Feeling pretty aesthetic. Think we're good.
That's actually pretty rad. That's rad because you know what? I'm admiring your guys' vests right now. Those are some pretty rad vests.
This one in particular, I just built this one, so like I'm waiting for a whole bunch of I wanted to do synthwave battle vest, so I'm waiting for like a bunch of patches to come in, and I got a couple like punk rock version ones made, like the legit like material, and then like I painted the logos in, and I painted ones that are of friends bands that don't have patches, like Bunny X, who I know you just had on there, like Neon Dreams, like a bunch of them. I think I got like a Perturbator, Dance with the Dead, Street Cleaner, and Carpenter Brute, like the Four Horsemen, to go under the big Megatronics logo on my back.
That's rad. I'm looking forward to seeing that other vest as well. And you guys got some pretty awesome shades on. I see we're having kind of a shades party right now. Pretty sweet shades.
Oh, yeah. I believe I actually have a pair that's very similar to yours. Not quite the blue ones, but I believe I have silver and black, and there's another one. I've had this cup for a while, so they're definitely a really fun brand. Good taste.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Demand
I love
authority and respect with Pit Viper.
Yeah. You guys got Pit Vipers. I have on Laserface from Heatwave Visual. If you guys get a chance to check them out, they're really awesome brand. I actually took this pair of glasses on tour with us last year over the summer, on tour with Street Cleaner, and I gotta say, these things got damaged and knocked around so much. And at one point, I even lost them during a show, and I thought, oh my God, these sunglasses are gone. I'm never gonna find them again. Lo and behold, I found them toward the back of the club at the end of the night on the ground.
Nice.
They fell off me at some point in time. But hey, it's like a lucky charm because these glasses still end up finding their way back to me somehow.
When Power Rob first got into Pit Viper, and he introduced him to me through his Thrill Killer band, they sent him to Miami Nights on the road, and they got snaked like immediately.
In Miami.
And then Pit Viper was like, oh, dude. And they just like totally sent him another pair. They're super cool.
Part of how they did that was I was involved in a 80s synth rock opera afterwards called Space Kumite, and they sent me a new pair of Miami Nights for the character I was playing in that. Those guys have been so accommodating. They've sent me these guys. I think we had these sent for the Thrill Killer music film series, and at least most of these for his character and mine. I think we've been sent a grand total of 6 or 7 pairs. Those guys are very accommodating.
I'm on round 2 of my the midnight ones, or the other dark purple pair, because the first pair got killed in the mosh pit at Super Magfest.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, you know what? That's pretty rad that they're supplying you guys with new pairs, because, you can never have too many amazing sunglasses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're safety rated. I could wear these in a lab and blow some chemicals up in my face and still be aesthetic.
Well, you know what? Functionality with style. And that's what it's all about. So today we're going to ask you guys a couple of questions and see where it goes from here. Are you guys ready to get into it?
Sure.
Okie dokie.
Right. What are 3 of your most memorable moments from your musical career?
So a lot of it had to be like different rock opera stuff over the years, just because of the scale of the event. The first one I did was in 2012 called Valhalla. It was with the Baltimore Rock Opera Society. I never really did theater before. And then my friends kept saying, yo, there's a power metal opera in town, like you need to audition for it. And I showed up, did my thing, and I got the lead role in it. It was this ridiculous event where I had to play a crippled son of Odin who went to war with Loki and Odin in hell, and I had a magical voice that could kill gods and summon the dead, and we had this gigantic stage and light stuff. I didn't know how really big it was until I did it, and next thing you know, we've sold everything out. I had a bra thrown at me in a theater. Like, it's just absolute madness. We had a dude jump off the stage. And we had 7 shows. We had 6 initially, and it became so popular that we did an additional double Saturday event where we had another midnight show. That too sold out. So that was definitely one of them. That show, if it ever does come back, the company knows, if they ever need me, I'll be back. So it's definitely number 1. Not in terms of like importance, just this first one comes to mind is Valhalla, because I launched a lot of stuff. Like, it got me into teaching a bunch of things in my career.
So for you have like more of a theater background. I take it from that, right?
It's funny, because I didn't actually really get into voice for theater. I jumped into voice initially because I wanted to be a great rock or power metal singer and do all the crazy stuff, like higher stuff like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and all that. And my first vocal coach, he was on the tours of Superstar, Jesus Christ Superstar, and he taught me a lot of how like a lot of the legends did their high stuff. Like he was the understudy of Ted Neely, and there was a right and a wrong. And so I went to him for 2 years, and then I went to an opera coach for 4 of them. So I was doing bands for years. Like that was my main thing. Like I was in a power metal band that we opened for Stradivarius, Symphony, or Doropesh, 3 Inches of Blood. Like we've been in Pagan's Mind and a couple other names, if I recall correctly. And so I then made another band at the time. We just got done playing with Sebastian Bach. We opened for him. And so I was really doing that, like making music. And then I got kind of pulled into theater because of the rock opera kind of renaissance in the area. You could tell like it was really my voice and just my passion for the style that kind of helped me get what I got. I remember like Valhalla netted me Best Actor in a Musical from DC Mesh Theater Arts, a bunch of other things, but I never really acted before. But there are a lot of moments where like you could tell my ignorance was kind of comical. Like we did, I got asked by a company to do a show called Prog Metal Sweeney Todd. And when I got asked to do it, when they said, "Hey man, do you want to do it?" My reaction was, the first thing I said, which I found out was blasphemy. I said, "Oh yeah, man, I'm the Johnny Depp dude." Like, and they froze. They're just kind of like, thankfully they liked me. They're like, "No, Rob, you're not the Johnny Depp guy." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Which one am I? Oh, this one? Yeah, I can make him metal. Yeah, sure. Do I get a cape?" And like, that was pretty much what I got into Sweeney. And then I found out from the guys like, "Oh, by the way, it's a big deal. Sondheim's been talking to us directly. Like we talked to him and all this stuff." And I was like, "Oh, who's Sondheim?" Apparently that was a bad thing to ask. Like, he's the guy that wrote Sweeney. He's the guy that wrote Into the Woods, all this stuff. And it was like, ooh, whoops. So like I happen to have done a lot of theater, like Superstar, I'd probably say about 7 or 8 other rock operas, but I always kind of called myself like a visitor. Like I loved doing them. It's always a blast. I've learned a lot about myself as a performer. And also playing villains is like the best therapy you could possibly have.
How about you, Dark Rob? What are some of your moments?
A good memorable moment when it comes to Megatronics is when Street Cleaner came to our town, and it was him and Protector 101, and we're hanging out, setting up, doing whatever. And it was our debut show, and it was our debut of our custom Megatronics arcade machine. So we have that set up at the merch table because that's all we have is this machine. And I set it on Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 as like the demo, and every time the music would loop itself, I would hear Jesse just scream Mortal Kombat, and he never missed like one of them, and he was just all night him just screaming Mortal Kombat like the commercial. Oh, and then he took a Swolfie with us.
Oh yeah,
so that was cool.
Fun. Yeah, that's good times.
Yeah.
And as for the last one, man, that's a hard question. I know Megatronics is kind of in its infancy live-wise, so I know at some point we're gonna have some gigs that make the list. But for crazy events, possibly the Thrill Killer music film release, just because Thrill Killer we don't really have music videos, we have music films. And every one of them tells a gigantic 80s time cop storyline. Like we have DeLoreans, we have actors, all this stuff. And the release show was really special because it was, when we did the second video, that's when we started adding actors. That's when we brought Robbie in to play the lead villain. And that was just to have that, from conception to finish, having all of this stuff in this massive universe, then to do it, and to see a crowd react to something that was really just a crazy idea initially. That was cool. I mean, there's a bunch of other ones. Just off the cuff, I'd probably put those 3 up there.
Again, as Power Rob said, Megatronics being in its infancy as far as live shows, which when we can, we're gonna hit it hard, like as hard as we can.
It's pretty rad. Those are some pretty awesome moments. It's funny that you're mentioning Jesse. I love Jesse. Great dude. Great, amazing music. And you know what? He really is. It doesn't matter where he goes and what he gets into. It's always feels like that family atmosphere with him.
Yeah, we had no problem clicking. We got the chatting, and he and I nerd out about Zelda stuff all the time. And I call him Synth Daddy because if I'm like, "Hey, what's that synth? What's this synth?" And like I'll ask him, and he'll tell me. So it's like the people in the scene that are willing to share the knowledge to help others improve is vastly different than, say, metal, or at least our metal community. Like if you're like, "Hey man, so how do you how do you do such and such with that and this and that? And they're like a little kind of because they don't want to give away their secret. But like I was saying earlier, Tony from Dance with the Dead told me what one of their synths they used was. Jesse gives me tips all the time, and but yeah, I love Jesse too.
And I really think too, like with this community, with the synthwave community, synthwave, retrowave, outrun, dark synth, doesn't matter. It's all falling under this umbrella. Everybody wants to help everybody else, because they want to help propel this scene forward, and as to as many ears as it can. And you get a lot of artists that want to work with other artists. They want to collaborate. They want to contribute to the sound. It's just one thing after another. You know what I mean? One thing after another, and we are seeing this thing seeping into the mainstream. It really is like it's everywhere. You know what I mean? This sound, this retro futuristic sound is really just kind of coming in all over the place. So it's really great to see how much it's grown in the past decade, because now it's been 10 years since its infancy, so it's hard to think about that. It's kind of funny to kind of go back and go, wow, it's been 10 years, since these humble beginnings, but it's really kind of evolved from that time. Yeah, when one of the one shows that we have played, we went up to Brooklyn, and it was Megatronics, Bunny X, Vera was there, but she wasn't playing that night. Neutron Dreams from Retro Synth Records, and that it was just the three of us, right?
Faith in the Glitch, I believe, right?
Oh, Faith in the Glitch. Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot.
You can't forget him. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot Josh.
Yeah, he's cool guy. I got your back, anyway, Josh.
I love Josh. I love Josh. He's the reason I decided to make a synthwave battle vest, because I saw him have one. But anyway, so we go up there and we're immediately like tight. And, Inspector was there. He was there just in attendance. Yeah, it was great. They didn't care if we were like, synthwave with heavy metal. We were the fact that we were like there and we were together and representing. And they were all great. Not a single asshole in there. I love all of them. Yeah, they are. It is a very welcoming community. It's a very welcoming scene. Power to Josh, power to Faith in the Glitch. You know what I mean? Like a lot of our events that we've been since this lockdown has happened, and since we have had to do all the social distancing and staying safe, it's like we have had to bring Nightwave and Sanjin Apparel online to everybody else. So big shout out to Joshua, the Faith in the Glitch, who always constantly helps, with bringing all of us from all different areas throughout the United States to bring us into the live streams, and all the hard work he does on Twitch and with us on the events. You know what I mean? Yeah. So thank you, Joshua. I think he only likes me because I brought him a large Richmond, Virginia pizza when we played together at Fallout. I was like, dude, you want some? He's like, really? I'm like, what? They don't feed you? Nah, I love him. Cool guy. He's a great guy. So tell me a bit more about Powerwave, your guys' debut album. Like, what are the inspirations behind it, and how did you guys find your sound with it? To talk about Powerwave, you have to have a background on how we started, especially because it's like our debut album. I was sitting where I am right now, and I heard in the face of evil, I think it's called, from Magic Sword, on that damn Thor Ragnarok trailer. And I was like, wait a minute, this sounds like what I used to listen to all the time in like some way, shape, or form, especially in like 80s film score, And I was like, and then I looked that up, and that basically I fell down a hole because I found new retrowave, and then I fell down those playlist holes and I was like, dude, I've been listening to this forever. I just never knew what it was called. And like, this is new, this is now, holy shit. So having a metal background and always dabbling in electronics in one way or shape or form, especially with like harder industrial, I was like, I wonder what it would sound like if you took that and just put metal in it. And more specifically, one of my favorite bands, Fear Factory. Like, if you listen to I Fight Time, that drum beat is straight Fear Factory. So I was like, I wonder what it would sound like if they did something like that, because they dabble in the electronics too. So I sat here and I wrote the music for I Fight Time, and admittedly, I can sing if somebody tells me exactly what to do, or I can sing to somebody else singing. But predominantly, I'm a death metal vocalist, like Cookie Monster, straight Cookie Monster. And I'm like, you know, I'm listening to the vocals that are on, you know, what's out there, and I'm like, there's no way A, I can do that well, and B, why don't I just get somebody, you know, bring somebody else in and let's just make it a team instead of like getting like a whole bunch of feature people. And right at that same time is when Power Rob was doing his the Thrill Killer film universe. Like it happened like right at the same time, or maybe the music came a bit after I was in the Thrill Killer 2 video, and I was like, dang, he's got the aesthetic. Like it basically, it fell into place perfectly because he and I played together in a couple, I think it's like a charity event thing here in Baltimore called Baltimore All Stars, from a bunch of local bands. You make super groups and you do covers for charity. We had run into each other through that, and I'm like, he's got the aesthetic, and I know damn well he can destroy the fucking vocals for these. I just gotta ask him. I sent him the music to I Fight Time, and I was like, let's put this out, see what happens. We'll put it out. If people dig it, we'll make an album out of it. If not, it's just a little one-timer thing. We gave it a shot, and it did pretty well. And it was like, oh, well, now we gotta make an album.
It was funny because around the time I was really trying to kind of move away from metal because I'd done it for so many years. I'd say that I did power metal for about 7-8 years. And so when he brought up the idea of doing a synthwave project, my first reaction was, you know, when I heard it was power metal, I was like, oh, well, if it's captivating enough, then I'm sure I can write something over top of it. And so I got the instrumental to what eventually became I Fight Time, and it's one of those rare songs where it pretty much wrote itself. Like I remember I listened to it, and for me, like you hear metal enough over the years where you're kind of like, you know what, there's only so many ways you can really change a guitar tone. And so I first reacted when I heard it, I was like, oh wow, I can actually listen to this, you know, and just enjoy the song. And you know, for me, that's usually like kind of hook fuel. Like, you know, once you can enjoy it on your own, it's very easy to find the right melodies there. So I Fight Time didn't take long at all to write. In fact, during the demo session, there were actually a few parts in the bridge that I wrote on the way there, including the second half of the chorus, the part about the fission and all that. It just, because it was easy to find melodies and words and syllables for that. So yeah, I Fight Time was it was definitely a song that wrote itself, and it did well. Vocally, I tried to take some influence from a rather specific niche from metal that I didn't think was explored much. Specifically, when Judas Priest was starting to experiment a lot with a lot of electronic sounds in the 80s. It's kind of an era of Priest that I feel was underappreciated. So I added some of those effects in some of the verses for I Fight Time. It just had that vibe where it was more about the percussive and the percussive consonants and the sounds you're making to really deliver the way it's supposed to sound. And so it was a lot of fun building that one. But then with Powerwave, yeah, we kept continuing forward. And I think that it came to a point around 2019, late 2019, where I think I sent a message to Robbie where we had a couple songs out. I believe we had It Spoke to Us, Burning on Third Degree, and I Fight Time. And we had the other material, but just kind of the way I like to make music is I try to set like a goal instantly. And I kind of try to put a fire under us. I'm like, all right, let's just get the album done. You know, I Fight Time has been out for about a year or so. Let's just get it done. And so by the end of the end of period we had for Powerwave, we really did bang those last few songs out pretty quick. I mean, I was writing a lot of material pretty quickly. I think one of the last ones we did was Maverick Hunter. We did have other ones we did over time, but it was around the last few months where we really started amping up production. We started kind of getting the idea of what it was like to put songs out and, you know, finding rhythm. And we're still refining things. You know, we're still working on ways to evolve and fine tune very specific things that we're working on. And I think we're also kind of adapting to what people liked in the older songs and finding ways to maximize that for the future releases and evolve as a project. So my job was to find interesting ways to keep power metal vocal lines as hooky and captivating as possible by kind of experimenting outside the realm of it and only using power metal when it was absolutely necessary. And we'll see where it works, at least for my end of things.
And he nailed it. As Power Rob said, we put out like 4 singles. The underline of it I was doing all the music for all like the other stuff. So there was like 10 or 15, you know, projects that are like half of it. There, some of them are like almost done. And then but Power Rob was like, dude, let's just bang the album out. So like the rest of that album had pretty much already been written over the time period of like the singles, but we just slammed all the rest of them in like a period of like 3 months. And I think it came out pretty okay. You know, through the course of the whole thing, Megatronics is 50-50. Everything split down the middle. There's only 2 of us, so it's great. I don't have to argue with like 5 other people about like what to do with and this and that. We don't step on each other's toes, and it's truly a real blend. Like we gel like very well. I personally think that the whole thing is like straight down the middle, 50-50 synthwave power metal. So that's why the album's called Powerwave.
Yeah. And it really does kind of go right down the middle there. To everybody out there, if you haven't heard Powerwave yet, check it out, because what you guys have done is you have created a middle ground between the style that we've come to love called synthwave, and then we have power metal. And you guys have really created that middle ground there where you're able to ride the line. And during this album, you have a lot of variations in the songs. I love I Fight Time. I enjoyed that track a lot. I also love Maverick Hunters. It is an amazing track. You guys having all the little nuances and the little things that you put into this album have shown a lot of different variations. The vocals are amazing on there.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? The guitar work is amazing. The synthesizer work on there is amazing. It's very dynamic. It flows really well together. In some instances, it's very atmospheric. You know, it's very cinematic in some ways too. So you guys have done a great job on this album. And to everybody out there, be sure to check it out, because it will fucking rock your world.
Thank you.
What was the drive behind getting you guys into making music and performing?
The thing that got me playing music in the first place, when I was 14 years old, I had this, you know, one of my first girlfriends or whatever, you know, 14, 13 were kids. And this was in the mid 90s. So like alternative was the thing, and grunge, and she's all into Nirvana, and she had a little acoustic guitar, and she would kind of riff around on it. And I'm like, you know what I'm going to do to impress her? I'm going to learn how to play that guitar. I'm going to learn how to play that guitar for that girl. And so I got like a little strap pack, like a little starter pack. I call her, hey, how do you hold this thing? Like, so she tells me how to hold it, and I take 1 or 2 lessons to basically learn the guitar itself and learn how to read tablature. So they taught me like 1 song, and I'm like, okay, thanks. And I took it. And so at that same time, I'm like, oh, well, I got to be in a band. I play stuff. Whose band can I be in? And nobody at my school needed a guitar player. They all needed drummers. And it's the same damn thing now. Nobody has a drummer. It's always me. I swear to God, I'm the only drummer left in Baltimore. Anyway, so, and I'm probably going to get heat for this one too. Lars Ulrich taught me how to play drums. And I don't care. I know he's got his thing where he's off, but when he's on, he's fucking on, and you can't deny it. But he, watching the Live Shit Bench and Perch box set, taught me how to play guitar and drums. And then I guess once I'm around 16, I moved to a different area, and they were the same kids, or there were kids there that like they were in a band, and they're like, hey, you got long hair. I bet you play guitar. I bet you play something. And then it just, from my second show ever, I remember the date exactly. It was March 8th of 2000. It's just been on since then. And that's what got me into it.
Where I came from, back when I was a kid, you know, I was always kind of an awkward kid that was under a lot of stress all the time. I had a lot of social anxiety, and music was always something that I always viewed as kind of like a cape that would protect me all the time, like in school, outside school. It was one of the few things I would kind of dive into to kind of escape from everything that was in my life back then. And so it became this thing that it was not just something I liked to do, but there was almost like this level of respect for it. Like like a lot of reverence for the whole for music. This thing that kind of transcended language and was almost ethereal at times. And so as I was in high school, I had to take an elective and I was trying to get out of gym basically, and so I took choir. And around that time, I was just kind of singing along to a few things as a kid, and one of my friends said I was pretty decent, and the choir thought I was not bad either. And I think I got a kind of a big head about it. So I made a band back then, and we had the recording situation we had was terrible. I mean, I used an SM58, and it was just like one take kind of stuff. So I'll admit the process was very good, but I also didn't really know what I was doing. Like I wanted to do power metal, and I ended up releasing some material that was actually not that good. It was quite embarrassing actually, and they got onto it. It became kind of like a joke, and so I had a lot of people kind of attacking me, telling me I shouldn't do it. I had some people in my family were doing that too, and a lot of them were concerned about my future and all that. But point being, like this was the thing that I felt kind of gave me value. So even though I was doing a cappella stuff and all that, like it went from being ashamed to eventually like I got angry about it, thinking I want to prove these people wrong. So I sought out my first coach, who was a very impressive tenor, a crazy high end, and my job was to figure out whatever he was doing. I didn't have really much of a great full range back then. I wasn't one of those guys that had things starting off, and so I worked at it. I busted my butt, you name it. Like I would, in order to open my sinuses, I would in between shifts at Staples, I would sit in a hot car with the heat on in the summer to open things up, to experiment with how the sinuses worked, or the throat worked. I was obsessive, and I was just so hungry for knowledge about that it really propelled me to figure out how to get the most of my voice. Because the kind of stuff that I do and stuff like Megatronics is not really stuff that, according to typical singing technique, I should be able to do, but just by perseverance, I figured out ways to do it. So over the years, I was initially I was this kid that had a ton to prove. Like that's why the rock hours were important, because I still was kind of that kid, and having those events to just almost feel like I was unleashing 6 years of hard work and all this stuff on these stages. It really it helped me grow, and also got me into teaching, which now when I teach, I come from a background where one of my number one things I do now is help vocalists get over their anxiety. So they have to go through everything I had to go through in order to feel like you had value in that department. So that was why I got into it. And then music eventually became this thing where no matter what happened in my life, it would survive. I even had a song I wrote a while back called Midnight Master that was about this, where, no matter what happened, it will endure, it will continue on. It will remain. There was a hook. It was, I will remain, or it will remain. And so it really was this thing that stood the test of time. Love that was lost, it was there. Tragedy, it survived. It always was this thing. So voice, especially in power metal, it wasn't just a hobby. It was this thing that I had reverence for. Like there was a right way to do it. The legends that did it, there are certain things they got right. They had to put the time in. They had to work hard. And if I could have done that, I kind of wish I had those old recordings back then. It's something I wish I could show my students now, where, this idea that anyone can automatically have it. Yeah, some, I guess, have things earlier, but, it's something, if you really desperately want to do it hard enough, almost anyone can become an excellent, great vocalist. So yeah, that's kind of the basis of how I got into this stuff. It's not even about like, getting attention, from, romantically, also the stuff, partying out. It's never been that for me. It's always been proving to that kid back then, I was right, and I wanted to leave a mark in that realm. So it's kind of part of why I think hanging out with other musicians, it sometimes gets a little weird, because I'm not in it for similar reasons. I'm kind of in it for, I guess, kind of weirdly unique ones. But yeah, it's kind of a lot of where my drive and dedication come from, and why I'm so obsessive about everything I do.
Well, you know what? Like, you have some very, very, very impressive vocal range. I'll tell you that. A lot of artists, how they start out, it's like sometimes you do it for reasons, because you were influenced by somebody in your childhood, you're influenced by parents who were trained in something, or you were influenced because of maybe a girl, or you were influenced just because you had the pure drive to want to know more. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that search for knowledge. It's that thirst for knowledge that propels us forward to learn different things. It's like, even though with you, Dark Rob, like where you started it, learning the guitar, but then you progressed into drums. You know what I mean? That's where you progressed into. It's like that was the next step. But you have blossomed out of that and learned other things as well. You know, you didn't stop there. It was like guitar, drums, synthesizers, you know, whatever, you know, you seek for more knowledge. And you know, Power Rob, it's like your thirst for knowledge with your vocal ranges, you know, learning how to use this thing as your weapon. You're learning how to use it in so many more amazing ways than some people limit themselves with, you know, because it's like what we can project out vocally, it's like there's no cap on it. Really, there isn't a cap on it. It's like you can, if you really want to hit those super, super, super high notes, you're going to find a way to do it. You're going to find a way to do it, you know?
Robbie has seen, I mean, it's no stranger that, you know, Robbie's definitely seen nights where it's been stressful, you know, the odds have been stacked against us. And, you know, he's seen me definitely under the weather, under pressure and stuff. But once it comes time to hit that stage, you turn it off, no matter what it is. And he's also caught me before where I've had people that couldn't understand that, you know, may have cracked under pressure on stage, and I had to handle that. I definitely know you witnessed one of those.
I seen it.
Yeah, it was a heck of a night. But point being, you know, you have to, once you get up there, you know, no matter what's going on. And again, like, you know, he's made a few comments before about, you know, it's easy working with Rob here, me. But in actuality, no, there are going to be a tremendous amount of nights where, especially when you work with someone all the time, you're going to see, you know, you're really going to see the negative sides of the character. And I'm most certainly aware of it. But, you know, when the time comes, when they're under pressure, I'm getting it all out beforehand, because I know when the chips are down, that's truly what defines what kind of a partner, what kind of teammate or performer you are.
Yeah, well, you know, I know it's like the things that define us in our lives are going to be the hardships and the struggles and how we come back from them. You know, so it's like with any relationship that you're in your life, it doesn't matter. It's there's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times, but we are human beings, and we are a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
Right there.
So far, the saltiest I've gotten around Rob at a gig was on the way to the gig, because he never lets me win at Smash Brothers. He's not that good, but I just suck really bad to enough to where he can beat me. So if y'all want some fun, give Rob your Nintendo ID.
Yeah, you should listen to Robbie. I don't know what I'm doing at all. I have no idea what I'm doing in Smash Brothers.
Well, you heard it right here. You heard it right here from Dark Rob, everybody.
Yeah.
Get that Smash Brothers going, you know what I mean?
I don't have a poker face on at all. I don't know what I'm doing.
What are you both looking forward to accomplishing the most moving forward?
Gigs. Live gigs. We just again, you know, we keep going. We have the metal background, and in metal, that's what you do. Like, there's like the big guys and they're doing this festival or whatever, but down here where we are, you still got to hustle. You got to get in that van for 44 days and set yourself on fire and like get back in the van all bandaged up or some shit like that, you know? And that's what I want to do. I want to get on I want to hit it. I want to hit it hard. I want to play in front of like 10 people, in front of 100 people. I want to do one of the Nightwave things when that's back open. I want to go over and do you know, the festivals over there where you are in California. I just want to hit it hard and bang out new tunes as we're getting to that. And we actually have one on deck.
Yeah, we do. We got something that might be coming out. Well,
maybe a cover and an original. We'll
we have been making the most out of quarantine. Well, we could say that officially. We've been making the most out of the ability to the fact that we can't play much. So what do you do when you can't play? Well, you record. So it's definitely something we've been working out for sure. So I guess for Megatronics, I would say that really just making. I think that even though synthwave's been around for a minute, I've been starting to notice over the past probably year or two. It seems like there's like I know a lot of synthwave has been very fixated on what's referred to, at least I refer to as the first wave. You know, a lot of the big names that people tend to identify a lot with. And it seems to me, especially over the artists we've become friends with over the past year or so, that there's this kind of second wave evolving of artists that might not necessarily be typical synthwave, but they're unique and interesting enough that it's kind of building its own sub-movement that I think with enough work and enough camaraderie could explode, could be just as big as wave one. So one of the objectives I have for Megatronics is to become to really put our mark in Wave 2 and show that, we have a unique sound, and what we do it to the best of our ability. And we try to do it like nobody else. And we really make that gigantic stake in Wave 2. And by doing so, I know that over the last few weeks, we've been putting our heads together, looking at, what certain songs did that people liked a lot, as I mentioned earlier, and ways to evolve and use the time off, even with like Thrill Killer, in the Megatronics room or Megatronics Thrill Killer room we're in, we built a vocal booth in there. We've been assembling a studio so we can pump content out as fast as possible. And, I'm not the best engineer, and we typically like going to our guy Tony for this, but we're trying to set up an apparatus where, we can become content creators in Wave 2 and really leave a mark during all this. And of course, the idea is then, to play a lot and support a lot. But if I were to put my eggs in a certain basket more than others, I would say it's really making sure that Wave 2, Megatronics is one of the names that comes up.
Agree.
Well, it's like with this scene, what you're referring to, like Wave 1, you have like, you have the artists that help, pave the way for who are out there now, for everybody who's out there now and everybody who's contributing to it now. But as you see in this, I guess, this second part or the second act of it, it's like you have a lot of artists that are dabbling in other areas. Like when you go back 10 years, 8 years, 7 years, whatever you want to say, when you go back, you look at the artists that came before and you kind of go, they have a very inherent 80s sound. Like it's very 80s. It's like, it's very, DIY. They're using, all of those sounds that are heavily influenced by that period of time. And then as you progress further down the line, years later, you have a lot of artists that are still keeping with that vibe, but are adding all kinds of other stuff to make it more accessible for a lot of people who are coming into the scene now. So you have a little bit more of that pop, kind of element added to it, and some more of that like maybe hip hop element added to it. But it's still inherently synthwave. You know what I mean? It's still there, but it's just in order to appeal to a broader spectrum of people, you are drawing other elements from other areas. So like with you guys and doing your music, you were wanting to appeal to a much larger area. You know what I mean? That where it's, you have in synthwave, but yes, you want to appeal to more of a metal community, more of a, a rock community.
We want to appeal to anybody that'll listen to it. We don't want to target ourselves towards heavy metal. It'd be very nice. Well, yeah, okay. I'll take that back. We do want to appeal to the synthwave kids because we've done metal so goddamn long. I guess the metal is there because that's what we do. Mm-hmm. And we want to take the synthwave and put it together because we're huge fans of it. As we're learning that a lot of synthwave kids used to be metalheads, if not still are.
Yeah.
So it's like we're coming in the same way that they did.
Yeah.
Except we're just, we're not kidding ourselves, and we're staying kind of true and keeping a little metal in there and just giving it a nice shiny purple and pink neon sunset whatever blanket of synthwave.
Yeah, our events that we do here, like when we do, because we're bouncing between New York, LA, and San Francisco, the Nightwave and San Junipero events, we see, even with the events that I do here too, our Future Daze events as well, like we see such a large rainbow, like a rainbow of people. You have people who are into metal. You have people who are into goth music. You have people who are into hip hop. It's like you have a huge spectrum of people who are into this style of music because it's something that they remember, something that they've just been introduced to, something that triggers them in those different ways. So we're, with blending all of these different styles of music and kind of helping to bring them into the fold, you are hitting larger audiences. You are expanding that sound to so many people that wouldn't have been touched with this at any point in time.
Very good point.
Well said.
I would love to see you guys come over here and do some shows over here in LA because I think that would be freaking amazing. What positive message would you give your fans out there?
I think that kind of a combination of things. As a vocalist, I really want to impress upon people that the abilities that someone can do, like the potential people have with their voices, vastly underdeveloped typically. And what I mean by that, underexplored is a good way to put it. That people on average, they tend to sell themselves short, and then they don't have to. You know, there's no need to. If I could go from the stuff I did years ago to, you know, being able to do things I'm much more proud of now, you know, I think that in general, as a coach, I'd like to leave that message to people as one of them, that, you know, everyone has this gigantic cavern of abilities that they don't know they have, and they can totally explore them if they truly want to, and don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Number two, which is similar to it, which is I said earlier, that, you know, always watch out for somebody who has something to prove. You know, someone's got something, you know, kind of what we brought up earlier, that if, you know, someone's got something to prove, those are the guys that are going to probably do the most incredible things, because they're going to go above and beyond, because they're not going to be afraid of something. They're going to think, this is my chance, you know, to do something whenever they're faced with adversity. So I suppose those are the two big ones, I guess.
For me, for the fans, I would say thank you very much.
Yes.
Very, very much for the support so far. There's definitely more coming. I would say to anybody looking to get in to synthwave, the thing to remember, we're all in this one way or another for the nostalgia and love and sound of the 80s. If you like metal and you like synthesizer, but you like the 80s synthesizer, put it together. Just do it. Like, don't let anybody tell you that something is not synthwave. That aggravates the shit out of me.
That's happened to us a bunch of times.
If it's in the vein of the love for the 80s, the love for the synthesizers and the aesthetic, the film, do it.
Yep.
Don't let anybody tell you that your shit ain't good enough for it. As long as it celebrates those things and, you know, obviously has synthesizers and things like that and sounds like the 80s in some way, shape, or form, do it.
Wise words right there, everybody. Wise words there from Dark Rob and Power Rob, Megatronics. You know, push forward. If you have ideas and you have things that you want to get out in your life, just push it forward, make it, create it, be it, live it. You know, don't just say I can dream it. You can make it a reality. And always push yourself, because that right there will take you a really amazing places.
When all this shit is over, get out of the basement, get from in front of that computer, learn your shit, and play live.
Yeah. Play live. There you go.
Play live. You can only sit in a Facebook group and post like, hey, I put out a thing. Hey, I put out a thing. Hey, I put out so much. The thing that will set you apart, and for me, that does this with other acts, you know, the ones that I am fans of are ones that I see actually playing live. All the ones I said before, Perturbator, you know, Jesse, Street Cleaner, Magic Sword, Dance with the Dead, Faith in the Glitch, all the people that we've played with. The first thing to me is like, they play live. Like Bunny X, two very talented women with a keyboard, and they do the damn thing, and it's just the two of them.
Yep.
And that's awesome. So if you're a synthwave producer and you want to make some kind of impact, get out of the basement.
Yeah.
And you can
play live.
You know, it's not about who's better or not. Anyone can. You guys can totally do it. And that's really the point. You know, it's not because
even if it's you with a laptop and one keyboard, you know what? That's different than somebody that's not doing it.
Yeah. So it's definitely has something to do who's better or worse. It's that y'all could do it, and why not? So
exactly. So everybody out there, if you have something you want to get out to the rest of the world and you want to do it in front of everybody, go ahead and do it. You know, get out there, play shows, bring it to the forefront, because that is what's going to shed the light on it. That's where it's going to propel you to the top. If you want to rise yourself up from where you are to the next level, then follow that dream, follow that passion, and never let it go. So to everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in to watch this interview today. Thank you guys. Thank you, Dark Rob. Thank you, Power Rob and Megatronics, for sitting down and doing this interview. If you like this interview, be sure to like and subscribe to our Tour Fiend YouTube channel, as we have many more awesome artist interviews on the way, just like this one. So with that, thank you guys so much. I look forward to seeing you guys sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.